Hello, Namaskar viewers. I am Sanjeev Pandya welcoming you to this week's edition of the Business Talk right here on ITV Gold. The show is brought to you by Science CPA Services, a complete professional full-fledged accounting firm located in state of New Jersey with multiple locations, and they can help you with any tax matters, personal or corporate tax matters, as well as bookkeeping, payroll, virtual CEO, CFO, anything that can help your business to grow and to succeed. And of course, for the personal tax matters, they can also help you out. And if you are in middle of IRS tax audit, reach out to Science CPA Services. They have years of experience to help out their clients when it comes to IRS tax audit. It can get a bit complicated, but Science CPA Services will make it very easy for you. They can be reached at 908-380-6876 or visit their website sciencecpaservices.com. With that note, we are about to start this episode, and this week's episode is going to be interesting. Before that, I'd like to welcome Mr. AJ Kumar, CPA and MBA, and with Science CPA Services for over 25 years. He joins us every week in our show and gives us the insight of every single business. AJ, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sanjeevji. Thank you for the kind introduction.
Sure, of course. And today the topic that we have picked is very interesting. America is the country which offers business opportunities. America is the country where a lot of millionaires are made from nothing. And of course, we all know it's a country of immigrants. The reason is that America's economy has substantially grown part of franchise businesses. Franchise businesses are very popular, and hundreds of thousands of individuals have become very, very rich through franchises. And there's always a new franchise coming up in the market every now and then. So today, AJ is going to take us into the franchise business. How does the business work? How can you start business? Everyone wants to start franchise business, but what they should be careful before they start business. How does the business work? What are the challenges? And what are the frequently asked questions? That's all going to be coming up in today's episode. So AJ, let's start with franchise business.
Absolutely, Sanjeevji. So everybody who comes to us, either they have a business or they want to start a business. They want to have a business. Everybody wants to become a millionaire. Everybody wants to be a business owner. And in a lot of cases, these people don't have an idea as which business they should be starting, or how do they go about starting a business. So franchise gives them an easy option, an easy way out, as opposed to trying to create something from scratch, trying to start your own business. If you have a franchisee, you already have certain benefits around it. You already have a name brand around it. You already have name recognition. Say, for example, Subway. Everybody knows Subway sells sandwich. If you try to create your own sandwich shop, XYZ, you have to explain. You have to do a lot of marketing. You have to do a lot of advertising around it to let people know XYZ means Subway, XYZ means sandwich, XYZ means good food, XYZ means restaurant. You can put it in the name, but even then, how do you attract the customer to your shop? So by having the franchisee, and the only reason these franchisors are able to give the franchise because people like their business, people like their product. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to give the franchisee out. So let's get the terms right for Sanjeevji. Franchisor is the person, the entity that's giving the franchisee.
Yes.
Franchisee is the entity, the person who is taking the franchisee.
Who's operating it, who's managing it, who's running it.
Receiving the franchisee. Yes. So typically, as you rightly said, day-to-day operations are managed by franchisee, where the name brand, the business know-how, let's say for example, if you take a franchisee for Hilton, a motel, or if you take a franchisee for H&R Block, or a franchisee for anybody, they will give you the software, they will give you the know-how, they will have some guidelines around what location, how big of a location, and how do you set up this location. So a lot of homework is pre-done on your behalf when you come to buying a franchisee. Of course, you have to pay some royalties, some fees, some expenses around it, but the franchisee makes your business dream relatively easier. The best part, you don't really need special expertise when you start your own business. The very first question people will ask you, what do you want to do? What is your expertise? What's your unique proposition about your business that you want to start? When it comes to franchisee, there is no such requirement. You don't have to be great in making sandwiches to buy a Subway franchise. You don't really have to know the difference between decaf or dark roast coffee to buy a Dunkin' Donut franchise. You can buy the Dunkin' Donut franchise. They will train you for a couple of weeks. They will help you set it up. They will have the name brand. People see Dunkin' Donut and people are lining up. They already know that you are selling coffee. So there are a lot of good things when it comes to a franchisee business.
Very nice. Now, if there are a lot of good things to franchisee business, also we know that not all franchise business are successful. There are some franchise businesses which can work in some part of the country, which may or may not work in this part of the country. My question to you is that if somebody wants to start a franchise business, where should they start? What is the number one thing they should do? And just run down the list of 1, 2, 3 the most important things for them to consider.
Absolutely, great question. So I understand I want to start a franchise, but there are tons of franchisee. Which franchise should I be starting? That's the question we are trying to answer here. So first thing first, you look at your own unique proposition. What's your expertise? If you're an IT consultant, if you are good with computers, then maybe an education franchise makes sense. If you have had business in the prior life, in the prior time, probably a retail business would make sense. A Dunkin' Donut, a Subway. You look at your strength. How old are you? How young you are? How much money you're willing to invest? A Dunkin' Donut franchise can cost upwards of $500,000. On the other hand, some of these educational franchises where they teach you the GMAT, the MCAT and GRE type of exam, you can get them for as low as $50,000. Auto shop, if you are a mechanic, consider auto shop franchising. So you have to look at your own strength, your own unique value proposition, your age, the time you want to invest, how much money you have, what location you are considering, and then you shortlist. Even then, you don't bring down to a single franchise. You short down 3, 4, 5 franchises, and then you research how successful these franchises are. Who manages these franchises? Have there been a lawsuit against these franchises ever? Then go back and try to speak to the current owners of these franchises to see how much money are they making. Are they happy with the arrangement that they have with the franchisor? And then try to shortlist the pros and cons that make sense in your case to decide what franchisee will make sense.
Okay, all right. So that's the number one thing. And obviously, there are many ways to research nowadays franchisee. But there are franchises who are quite expensive.
Absolutely.
You mentioned Subway, but more than Subway, I would say Dunkin' Donuts is one franchise where
Absolutely.
a lot
Very
of
expensive.
South Asians, a lot of South Asians are in
Absolutely.
there. All right. So now once they decide they want to go with this franchise and they do their research and everything, what are really good benefits of the franchise? Is it number one benefit is that it's a long-term steady business that you have that you don't need to worry?
I say more than the long term. It helps you give you the business model right up front. You have the sales beginning right on the first day. Let's say, for example, when we start Sai CPA services, we had to go out a lot of places, a lot of marketing, a lot of advertising to justify Sai CPA services is one of the best firm. If you have H&R Block, people are walking in, the name does not even have tax in there. But over the years, it became a synonym to the tax system. So people, just because you have the franchise, people are just lining up, walking in. You don't have to worry about which software to use. You are giving the software. You don't have to worry about how the workflow will work. They have the whole designed, planned, put in place, of course at a cost. But when you are buying a franchisee, you are buying a turnkey solution. You right from the first day, you have the revenue coming in and you have the profits. Of course, some of these profits will have to be shared with franchisor who created this whole model. But when you think about starting your own business, starting your own brand name, it takes some time to create the name in the market. The branding, the marketing has to be there. You have to be good. You have to know people, as opposed to franchisee business where you can start right on the day one.
Okay. And what are the downside of this franchise business?
Well, the first step first, it's expensive. you have to follow certain standard. You can't really have an H&R Block in one room. You can't really have a Hilton motel. You can have your own motel, Hilo motel, not Hilton motel. Hilo motel could be 4 rooms. Hilton motel cannot be in 4 rooms, meaning you can have your own B&B, you can have your own motels, your own business the way you want it, based on your budget. But when you're talking about the franchisee business, you don't decide the budget. They are deciding the budget for you. They decide the layout. They decide how many bathrooms, how many rooms you need. They decide what software you use. When you start making money, you have to pay certain royalty, which could be as low as 2% to as high as 20% of your revenue, not the profit. Imagine you're making $100, the first $20 automatically goes to the franchisor. So there are a lot of downsides around it. A lot of people will try a franchisee business first and then parallelly will try to grow their own business as opposed to starting their own business. In the long run, if you're looking at 10, 20, 30-year plan, having your own business is the right thing. If you're looking for a turnkey solution where you need to start making money right away and you have some investment that you can make.
Now, is there, any, because as a CPA, you must be filling out a lot of tax returns for the franchisee owners. What kind of businesses they should set up? Should that be a corporation or LLC, or what really is the most reasonable? I mean, everybody's situation is different.
You're right. Everybody's situation is different, but even in that case, you will find most franchisee businesses are either LLC or S Corp. We call them flow-through entity. Typically, franchisees are not C corporations or proprietorship, or even if it's a partnership, you will see it wrapped around in an LLC or an S corporation. Just because the motive is profit on day one, and they need to be able to take some money out every month, every quarter, every year. So the preferred choice is flow-through entity. That means either LLC or S corp. And now between the two entities, Sanjeev, LLC or S Corp, it depends on the type of franchisee, on your income tax bracket, on your other income from other sources, if you have to be on the payroll or not. So there are factors that we decide between LLC and S Corp, but most franchisee businesses are either LLC or S Corp.
Okay, very well. With that note, obviously, viewers, as you know, we are very, very in the middle of interesting conversation when it comes to franchise business. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back after these messages with more information. Stay with us. Welcome back to the second half of the Business Talk right here on ITV Gold. This is the Business Talk Show, Season 2. So this week, our topic is the franchise business. How does it work? What you should be really careful about, and how you can be successful, and how the franchise business can fail and you want to prevent that failure, and what can you do. So all that information, we're getting it from Mr. AJ Kumar of Science CPA Services. Before he speaks, you will see a table on the screen, and then that table, just if you look at it, it explains very well from the starting of business, a franchise business, to all the way step by step that what are the things to follow. So once you look at the table, then obviously AJ is going to start explaining to you.
So as you can see on the screen, Sanjeev ji, our viewers, there are several unique characteristics of a franchisee. Again, franchisor means the entity giving the franchisee, while the franchisee means the entity, the person taking the franchisee. So as you can imagine, ownership of the asset, the brand name, belongs to the franchisor, while the day-to-day operations belongs to the franchisee. Who to hire, who not to hire, cleaning company, accounting firm, all the day-to-day operations are decided by the franchisee as opposed to the franchisor. But the location has to be decided by the franchisor. Which software you use will be decided by the franchisor. POS system will be decided by the franchisor. So the asset control is with franchisor, day-to-day operations are with franchisee. While the management, who to hire, the local staff is all controlled by the franchisee. Operational support, training, manual, software, they are all decided and provided typically by the franchisor. A lot of these things depend on the franchisee to franchisee as well, but in most cases, operational support, including the training, the guidance, softwares, are all provided by the franchisor. The financial responsibility belongs to franchisee. They are the ones who are giving the money to franchisor. They are the ones who are investing money. Even though franchisor, the owner, is deciding which location, how many rooms, how many bathrooms, which software, but it's all done at the expense of the franchisee. So the financial risk, financial responsibility belongs to franchisee. Licensing agreement is typically between franchisor and franchisee, and a royalty is paid to franchisor, which can vary from 2% to typically as much as 20%. Brand recognition is based on franchisor. Some franchisor are so popular, just by looking at the name, you know what they are selling. While there are some franchisee which are not as popular, at least in this area. So Dunkin' Donut, for example, we were talking about. It doesn't really say coffee, but it's most popular for coffee. Subway talks about sandwich. So there are some franchisees that are very, very popular, and just by looking at their logo, you will know what they are selling. The consistency is what the franchisee is selling. In consistency means by going to any Subway, you have the same design, same structure, same menu, and you expect to get the exact same sandwich. Same thing with Dunkin' Donut. So this food consistency, this product consistency is what the franchisee is selling. Economy of scale, more franchisee you have, is easier for you to manage. Let's say if you have 2 franchisee, then you don't really need 3 people in each franchise. You can manage with 5 people in total. So more franchise you have, you can create an economy of scale, better bargaining power when it comes to buying the product. And some examples of the franchises are Subway, Hilton Hotels, lot of motels, Dunkin' Donuts, Taco Bells, Honest One Auto Shop. There are a lot of franchises that we have in the market.
Now, we talk about business and not talk about accounting. That's not possible. We have to bring in accounting angle. So now, franchise business and the tax accounting, how does that work? What are the helpful points that you can share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So in most cases, the POS system, the point of sale system, is controlled by the franchisor. They are giving the software, they are deciding which POS system. They have access to your POS system as well. In many cases, sales tax, if you collect sales tax, if you're this type of business is supposed to collect sales tax, is paid by the franchisor directly from your account. They have direct access to your account where the money is going, and they take their royalty fees automatically. Sometimes it's weekly, sometimes it's monthly. So POS system is controlled by the franchisor. Similarly, the payroll in many cases controlled by the franchisor. The payroll is decided by the franchisor which payroll company to use. They want to keep it consistent. They want to keep it same. So you are following the labor rules, labor laws. You are paying the overtime as needed. You have the right staff. So a lot of time payroll is also controlled by the franchisor. You are responsible for your income tax. You are responsible for filing your business tax, your personal taxes. You have the right to use their DBA, but in most cases, payroll system, the POS system, and the workflow is controlled by the franchisor in this case.
So if the operating system and the payroll system and the workflow is controlled by the franchisor, I have a couple of questions.
Please.
You said that, a franchisee just is responsible for the tax payments and everything. My first question to you is that since franchisor controls these very important aspects of business, do they have access to the franchisee's bank account?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Access in the sense they have the right to take X percentage of the money automatically without
That's
any
what I was
permission.
going to ask you, the royalty payments.
Absolutely.
They take it out directly from the bank account.
Without explicitly asking. There is a contract that's signed in the beginning that franchisor will have the right to take X percentage automatically from this account every month on this date.
Okay. Oh man, that's something. That is a really
Absolutely.
solid control.
Absolutely.
All right. At the end of the year, when the tax return is filed, and like I said earlier, when there is more than one individual as a part of owners of that franchisee, does the franchisor also has to get the copy of the tax return?
That depends on the contract. In most cases, they do want a copy of the contract to make sure they are comparing the POS numbers with the tax return numbers. Say, for example, if a franchisee is doing cash sales, let's say if you have an auto shop, not everything goes through the POS system. You have some side cash sale which you are showing on the tax return. Then franchisor have the right to come back and say, hey, on the tax return you are showing 1.2 million. But on the POS you are giving me the royalty on only on 1 million, I want extra royalty. So they typically have the access to the tax return as well. Within n number of days, you have to provide the tax return back to franchisor. Who to hire is not typically controlled by franchisor, but the rules are you cannot hire somebody on cash. The person you are hiring has to be of certain age. The person you are hiring has to be paid minimum this much wages. So there are controls around the payroll. Typically the control does not extend to who to hire. Finally, it's your decision as a small business owner who you decide to hire, as long as you are following the basic guidelines that are given to you around the payroll.
Okay, so now, once the payroll is done by them, everything is done by them, all franchisee has to do is that open the door and then let the business run on its own and make sure the business is running, and then following the criteria of that location, they just need to maintain, all the rules and regulations.
Quality control is an important aspect of a new franchisee. A lot of franchisor will have surprise visit, will have monthly, weekly, quarterly visits, especially in the beginning. And it doesn't matter how good the franchisee is, if your location is not producing the results, sooner or later people will find out. So even though you have Subway, even though you have Taco Bell, people will find out this location is not good or this location is not providing the right service, and they will start skipping it. So as much as franchisee brings you the brand name, as much as franchisee is an easy way to bring the customer in, customer service, providing the right quality of the food is still your responsibility.
Okay, very interesting. It comes with a lot of difficult things. It's not that easy. Last thing that you have in this tax accounting discussion, flow-through entity. How does that work?
So flow-through entities are typically LLC and S Corp, as we were discussing in the first half. Even though type of entity depends on your type of business, depend on your income tax bracket, depends on if you have partners or not. But in most cases, these franchisee business typically will choose either LLC or S Corp, and these two entities are referred as flow-through entities. This is what we see in the franchisee business, either LLC or S corporations.
Or what a franchisee should do when there is a difficulty in maintaining business, as you are an accountant and you may have done hundreds of tax returns for these franchisees. So I like you to have this comment.
Absolutely, 100%. So as much as franchisee is an easy way in the business, not all franchisees are successful. You will find some franchisees that are struggling, and the biggest problem is there is a fixed cost to it. You have put in a lot of money into the business, you have to have certain payroll, certain branding, certain money has to go out. So if you think your franchisee business is struggling, the very first thing you want to do is to keep the franchisor in loop. Let the franchisor know. They already have access to your POS system. Give them the bank statement, show them that you are not making it up. What you are going through, a lot of other franchisees may also be going through in other areas through the same process. So make sure you let the franchisor, the owner of the franchisee, know the struggle that you are facing. Ask them if they can help somehow. It's your first franchise. It's not their first franchisee. They have seen the situation. They have other franchisees struggling the same way. Ask for help from the franchisor. Ask for some more marketing budget that they can put towards your location. Ask them if they can defer the royalty. Ask them if there is a hurdle rate. You are supposed to take 5%. I don't mind 5%, Mr. Franchisor, but can you defer it for some time? Can you waive it for 3 months until I start breaking even? So there are a lot of ways to handle it. And then again, you are in business. You have signed up for the risk that a business comes with. Do some networking. Go out of your way to meet a lot of people like you in your business type, to grow the business, to put the word around.
Do they have authority to come up with the promotional offers on their own in order to get the business?
They do have a lot of franchisee, and again it depends on franchisee to franchisee, but most franchisee will allow you to have your own promotion, except that you cannot deny the corporate promotion. Let's say that the corporate promotion says 10% of the tires. You have to accept that. At the same time, you can also say, if you change the tire, free oil change. That's your location, your promotion, As long as you're accepting the corporate promotions, in most cases, you will have the right to have your own local promotions as well.
All right, very well said. With that note, we come to an end of this episode, franchise business. That's what we discussed in this week's Business Talk right here on ITV Gold. The show is brought to you by Sai CPA Services. Once again, a full-fledged professional accounting firm. Not only accounting firm, but they are also investment advisor, where you should invest your money now for the remainder 6 months of the year in order to save your taxes. Save money on a taxes, and that is the right thing to do. So do consult Sai CPA Services for the investment advisory matter, and as well as if you are considering getting a franchise, then give them a call, set up a meeting, and get all the valuable advice that you really need to know. Sai CPA Services can be reached at 908-380-6876 or saicpaservices.com. You can visit and set up an appointment. AJ, as I thank you so very much for your time, I have one last question.
Of course.
Have you considered setting a franchise for Sai CPA Services?
I did, and I wanted to, but then life came in the way. Eventually, I hope to have Sai CPA Services franchisees, but don't wait for me.
Don't wait for you. Then what do we do if we don't wait for you? You're successful in New Jersey, and why not going to other parts of country?
Absolutely, it's a great
All
idea.
right, so it will happen. All right. With that note, we come to an end of this episode. Thank you so much for watching the show. Until we meet again, same place, same time. I am Sanjeev Pandya, wishing you all franchisee tax-free days ahead. So long.
Thank you.